We're live. Hi, everyone. I am back with Jackson. Today, we're going to talk about missions for Operation Grizzly. And we're also going to talk about because I submitted a few lists. Not that I'm going. I'm not. I don't have the cash to go to all the tournaments that I want to go to. But I submitted a few lists for you, Jackson. And before we go to the lists, and could you just like give us your initial impression of what happens when a European tournament player hands in a list to an American tournament? What did you think
Uh,
about it?
I'd say I was almost speechless because I saw the list and I was like, "Ow,
Oh,
ouch,
oh,
ouch!"
oh,
Like I was
ouch.
thinking, yeah. So I was thinking like, "Oh, geez, how could I even compete this? If I played this as the Ringer Army, I'd be like, oh man,
Yeah,
this would be rough."
yeah,
So, yeah, it was definitely a change of pace from what I'm used to seeing, but it was very welcome indeed. I feel like I always learn everything whenever you send me new stuff or learn things that I hadn't considered. And this was a bit of an eye opener to see what you could do, even at 750. It was,
yeah,
oh,
yeah. You
I,
can do a lot of stuff, and of course, as always, what we're going to show you now is me being completely. I completely disregard the fun of my opponent. I'm just handing in the worst list that I could possibly make at that point. So not necessarily what I would bring to a tournament. Let's just say that as a caveat. But the worst thing I think I could build. So we're going to first do like the few lists that I thought I would hand in, and we could talk about those, and then we are going to talk about the missions as well today.
mhm.
And if we have time at the end, we actually will do a live review of one of the actual lists going to Operation Grizzly. So that's the plan. Anyways, let's hope we can keep this within 1 hour, Jason.
I think we can do it.
Let's try. So should we start with my Operation Grizzly or my Warbirds list?
Let's go with Grizzly because I started out with or going with the PowerPoint that I sent you.
Right. So here we go. I'll just share my screen and we can talk about the list first. So So this is my 1,000 points. I actually have a few points left over, and that is because I want to buy a horse for my lieutenant. Um, so 994 points, 14 order dice, and it's the 1942-1945 liberation. So it's partisans, and I'm building an inexperienced partisan squad, 20 men, pistols. That is my assault go-to for partisans. That's insane. They will they'll even kill Paragurka units if they manage to get into close combat, which most often they won't, but if they do. Um, then a regular partisan late war unit here with a submachine gun and a Panzerfaust and some rifles. These are just skirmishes. And then cavalry. One, two, three, 4 units of 10 cavalrymen. Um, I fell in love with playing cavalry during my last tournament, and they can. I mean, they're not optimized build when you build them like this, but because 10 men, it's a large unit. You're putting a lot of points into that unit, but they're so good, and they can really shift the angle of attack massively, um, from like one side of the board to the other in 2 turns, and then you're down in the opponent's back line. A bazooka team, because partisans, I can take those. Flamethrower team, that is a bit of a risk because poor maintenance means you run out on a 1 and 2, not just a 1. Um, a medium mortar team with a spotter, regular sniper team, light howitzer, and 2 civilian cars. So all infantry. Let's get your feedback on the list.
Yeah. So going through the list comp that I had,
Yep.
spam was one of the criteria. So while this list would be allowed, I would say everyone starts out with 5
Yep.
spam points, I guess. And so because you took 3 or more units
I would
of
get
one thing, you would
a
get a
strike for
dock because
yeah,
of the
yeah.
spam. And then I also noticed you took an inexperienced lieutenant with the majority of your squad being regular.
I did.
So we would need to adjust that slightly. Maybe I saw you had a regular squad in there.
Yeah,
So if you
I
take
could easily take off a few points of something here and
Yeah, so
make
if
the
you shave some
lieutenant regular.
points and make him
Yeah,
regular,
yeah,
that would be the only change. But
yeah.
aside from that, I mean, no infantry. If you roll up against someone who has maybe two Panzer threes or a lot of machine guns,
Mhm.
that could be a big counter because I'm also falling in love with cavalry. I run them in every Italian list that I have.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have a big old unit of veterans,
yeah.
and I noticed that regular cavalry are much less survivable than veteran cavalry. I feel like
Much
every time
less.
I take
Yeah,
the regular ones, I really miss my vets.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. You
'Cause
do. And but partisans, you can only buy them regular. I would buy them veteran if I could, basically. But I think also that the fact that they are regular means that once you play with them, I think you become better at it quite quickly because you tend to think about think more about like keeping them alive, keeping them up and running, not being shot to pieces by a Panzer III or whatever, because they're regular. If they were veteran, they would take a few more hits, and I would like, okay, oh, don't matter, I'll still charge. But being regular, I really have to think about it. So that's why I think that as a training exercise, regular cavalry at least is good.
But yeah, and I guess once as we get into the missions for Grizzly, I think you'll see that this list would play pretty exceptionally, but you may have some trouble in one mission. I
Yeah,
don't know if you
yeah.
checked it out, but yeah, if we go over the missions using with this list in mind, I think
Should we do
this will
that
be
now?
really funny. Yeah,
Yeah,
let's do it.
let's do that now. So we have the Operation Grizzly missions here. Let's just a second. Where are the missions? That's not the missions.
Slide
Oh,
4.
there we go. Right, we'll just enhance that a little bit. Right. So 3 games. The first one is called Pilot Rescue, and there's an objective in each table quarter. So 4 objectives, and then a pilot lands in turn 4. Does he land on one of the objectives, or what happens there?
He lands in the center of the table, turn 4, with a d6 scatter
Okay.
possibility. Because I
Yeah.
tried this before with a 3d6 scatter, and that
Oh,
was way too much.
that's a
Because
lot.
that
Yeah.
would end maybe in, that
Mm,
would end almost on top of another player's objective, and so it would make it a really difficult for one opponent. But I figured keeping it in very close to the center, but still giving it
mm,
some variability, still kind of lends to the flavor of the mission. So that
yeah.
was my adjustment there.
And you get 2 points for capturing the pilot, which I guess he works sort of like an objective, or can you actually move him?
One point for the pilot, and he stays there because
Okay.
you think like he may be injured, maybe something like that. So he becomes a static objective that's worth 2 points instead of
Yeah.
one for each other
Yeah.
objective in the respective table quarters.
Yeah. So you could actually play this both going after the regular objectives. Like if you take all 3 of those and contest the pilot, you win. Or if you take 2 and take the pilot, you win. I really like that. That would actually play well for my army, I think, because having all that cavalry would mean I'm very mobile. I could go to several of the objectives, and I have a lot of infantry to sit on objectives as well.
Hmm.
Um, I might struggle if there are if there's a darker tank like a Panzer III or a Stuart that pushes up against one objective. I might struggle to keep that objective, but
Hmm.
yeah. Um, and then game 2, that would be the Kursk envelopment. So that's kill points, and basically you get points for rushing the enemy's deployment zone.
Yes, but in addition to kill points, you get a bonus point for killing any unit that has a run
Yeah,
distance greater than 12, which
yeah.
your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units of
Oh
cavalry.
yeah, yeah. That's 4 units of cavalry and 1 lieutenant that's on horseback. Yeah. But I
So
will say this: they're very, very good. If you know how to use them and you don't overextend, it's really easy to keep them alive. Um, but
so
rushing that
yeah,
back line,
this
yeah,
is the big kill point mission
yeah,
where actually one guy sent me a American, what is it, Sixth Corps list in soft underbelly where all of your veterans have the Trusket Trot, so 7-inch
mm,
advance, 14-inch movement.
yeah,
So that also unfortunately gets killed with this kill point mission, or
Yeah.
is disincentivized with this kill point mission.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. No, I think I would happily play that mission with my partisan army, Jackson. I really would. Um, because a lot of my like the infantry on foot can sit in my own back line with the howitzer and just defend, going on
mhm,
ambush and then move out relatively late game, and the cavalry can try and rush one flank, trying to stay alive, but find a flank where the enemy doesn't have a tank or machine guns to kill me, and then try and jump down in his deployment zone last turn. That would be my plan for that mission, I think.
gotcha.
Then finally, it's the race to Antwerp. So there are several objectives. Is that right?
Yeah, there are 5 objectives, so it's like a diamond pattern with one in
Yep.
the center.
Yeah. And then you plan to take an objective each turn. So you have to like shift objectives all the time.
Yep. Well, yeah. So you can only get 1 point per turn,
Yeah,
and you have to pick that objective. So okay, turn 1, I
yeah,
might get the objective that's in my zone. Turn
yeah,
2, I'm going to go after this flank. Turn 3, I'll get this one.
yeah.
You can't duplicate
So you
unless you
have to take a
until
new
turn
objective
6.
all the time. Ooh.
Yeah. So you have to basically plan your advance ahead of time
Mm-hmm.
and try and stick to it, because your opponent's also doing the same thing. So if you both pick the same objective on one turn,
Yeah,
that's going to be a real fight.
it
And
is.
I actually took this from the 8th edition Adeptus Mechanicus Codex in 40k. It was my favorite secondary mission to play.
Mm,
I would always pick that because I
yeah.
was like, okay, you would almost always have 2 objectives in the deployment zone, and I had 2 guys that were 2 big blobs that would park somewhere.
Mm,
It was so fun to rock
yeah.
because no one ever really took it, and I always managed to do pretty well with it. So it's like, I can turn this into a bolt action mission. So let's do it. And
That's.
then that
I
also
think
means high priority
that's really
target as
clever, and
well.
I think it's one of the things that we need to do more of in bold action, because we're playing the same 12 missions again and again and again and again. So picking out missions from other game systems that really work, I really like the idea of that. What is the high priority target for this?
So if you pick basically everyone in your army, pick the highest points cost unit in your army.
Hmm.
So I guess in your case, it would be one of your partisan squads.
Yes.
Um, so you would say your opponent, hey, this is my high priority target, and your opponent would get bonus points for killing it, just like
Hmm.
you would get bonus points for killing their panther or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
So that's how that works. So it's like pseudo at least 1 kill point. So
Yeah.
kill the biggest thing in their army
Yeah.
plus the objective rush.
Plus the objective. This can be difficult against some armies, I think. But I do have in my partisan list, I do have a lot of infantry that can take objectives, and I can really easily jump between the objectives. But it's a clever one, because you're going to have to plan it out really carefully, and you're going to have to contend with the enemy's motions all the time. I really like this mission.
Yeah,
It's a
and
it's a great
you
one.
plan it at the start of the game. So
Yeah,
before your deployment zone, you say, okay,
yeah,
I want to plan my advance, and
yeah,
then you got to stick with it. So if you
yeah.
pick an objective and
And you
you
can't get to
miss
it,
it,
then yeah,
just like, all right, move on to the next one. We got to
yeah,
try again.
yeah.
So
Right. So those were the missions. Really cool. I really like those. I like that you've made custom missions for this, and I like that there's there are at least 2 of them that really leans into objectives. Objectives are really good for tournament play, I think. And there's one that is very movement centered, but at the same time has kill points. Like it. Like it a lot. Should we move on to the missions for Warbirds then? Or should we
uh,
take the list first?
let's do so if you go to the next couple of slides, you'll see just refresh army construction with warbirds after this one.
There we go.
um,
Right.
just to show folks what you
Yeah.
can take, and also explaining the veteran challenge, and then
Yeah.
we can go over your list.
Yeah. Because the veteran challenge is a real thing. Right. I actually struggled a little bit to make this list. So I sent Jackson 2 lists, because look at the limitations here. It's 750 points, 1 generic reinforced platoon, 10 ordered ice max. So you're going to have to pick some units that are expensive, but not all of them. You can only take 1 flamethrower. You can only there can't be any Gurkha units, no bamboos, No free units, no heavy howitzers or multi-rocket launchers. And if you're a veteran player, which I guess I would call myself, then you have to bring the big armor. Uh, I interpreted big armor as being 9+. I don't know if that is correct, but that was my interpretation. Anyways,
Bring a big tank would be
bring a big
that.
tank. So I
That's
took the
gonna be fine.
tallest tank I could find. Let me just go and bring it up for you just a sec. So here we go. So I am bringing Brits 10 order dice, 750 points. Inexperienced lieutenant, again, I'm sorry, I'm breaking all the rules. I'm taking all the knockdowns for being cheesy on this. And then paratroopers, 2 units of paratroopers, because I can, and because the Gurkhas are not available, which is fine. The paratroopers are stubborn, and that is what will keep me alive to that one enemy flamethrower that gets flung into my face. They're also veterans, so they're very, very survivable. Medium mortar with a spotter, flamethrower team. That's my one flamethrower. Light artillery piece because the 25-pounder for the Brits is just so damn useful and so damn good.
Oh yeah.
I've just assembled my Rubicon one. Sits right here. Love the model. Um, Fiddly as fuck. It was really difficult to assemble, but I got there in the end. So I'm of course bringing that. It's just very good and it's a lovely model. And then double Bren carriers with LMGs because they work like 2 tanks basically. Each of them will get 1 unit of paratroopers in them, a jeep for my flamethrower, and then an M3 Lee.
Yes, I love this tank. I actually just painted up mine myself for my U.S. Marines.
Yep.
It's a fantastic tank. I played in the tank war tournament where a guy took 3 M3 Grants.
Yep.
And that was rough to deal with. So the Lee, while they're big and boxy, yes, they have vulnerable and easily casters fire and all sorts of things.
And
But
it is really
the split fire.
It's so tall. I mean, but the split fire is just so cool.
Oh yeah. So this definitely passes as the bring the big armor, and
Nice.
yeah, I mean this list looks really solid. I like the Bren carrier idea. I've had a couple of players kind of lean into more of the veteran deal where they have a couple squads of commandos or something like that. And I think that is a good angle to attack. So yeah, I would, and then I guess if you would like, we can go over my my ringer list.
Let's do that as well.
So let's see.
Do you have it so you can bring it up?
Yep. Yeah.
Right. I'll just jump off so you can take over here.
Share. Window. Entire screen. Allow. Okay.
Here we go.
Sharing my screen. Here we go. So
Right.
745. So this is where we change the caliber of between your lists and mine. So 745. So still got some room. Maybe I'll stick an SMG somewhere. 7 order dice. So I'm running Germans. So regular second lieutenant with extra man. I almost always run that, especially because the Germans can do the double snap too.
Yeah.
2 squads of here infantry, 1 6-man, 1 7-man. So a couple of skirmishers, mix way.
Yeah.
And MG34 LMG
also
team.
Really good. Yeah. Love
For my DAC, I know I could have run the German LMG team out of Battle of France, but I think leaning into my Western Desert theme, I wanted to run this one because it's not fixed. So I really like this idea.
Yeah.
Medium mortar with spotter, light howitzer, and then of course the Tiger 1. You got to run it. That's my question.
Okay.
I painted this thing up. I worked so hard to make sure that it's done. So I wanted to make sure that it can actually see the table, and this is a perfect example for it to do it.
It is.
So,
it is.
But yeah, so I'll stop sharing, and that is my abomination of a ringer list.
It's not an abomination, and if you're, I mean, if you're not actively trying to win, if you're just being the ringer, I mean, why not finally feel that tiger and do something?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And actually, it would be great against my list. I mean, that tiger would absolutely demolish. Like first turn, it would kill the Lee. Second turn, it will kill the second Bren carrier, and then finally the the third brain carrier, and then the tiger would possibly die because I had flown a flamethrower right into its face.
Well, yeah,
But
you're like, all right, howitzer, let's see if we could pin this thing on a 4+
yeah,
flamer.
then
For the love of God, hit!
yeah,
Like, yeah.
but and it is, of course, it's a mess. Like, people, don't do this at home. Don't do this, because pulling all those points into that one unit at 750 is just a bad idea. But it can be fun to just go at it sometimes and do something. I mean, it's not competitive at all. It's just a bad idea, but it can be really fun. So I like that. So let's look at the missions for Operation Warbirds as well. Just a sec, and I will share my screen. Oh, that wasn't what I was intending to do here. Here we go.
Technology plagues us all.
Oh yeah. Here we go. All right. So, Warbird
There we
missions here.
are.
Yeah. Come on. Right. So the Warbird missions. The first one is called Breakthrough, and that was Troy, I guess, who came up with this one.
Yeah, so these are all so Troy, Andrew, and Jason are all the TOs whom I've politely borrowed these missions from in one sense or another. I've been to all of their tournaments, and
Yeah.
they had some really great packs, and so I wanted to kind of blend, say, okay, I'll take the primary mission from yours, and then I'll
Yeah.
add a little bit of a twist on it.
Yeah. So Breakthrough is, of course, a DC rush, which makes perfect sense. And then it has the idea again of killing one unit. So in this case, the lieutenant or the highest ranking officer. Makes perfect sense in my eyes. How do you think your tiger list will fare in this mission?
Ooh, so I don't have anything that's really mobile aside
No.
from the Tiger. I would have
Yeah.
really benefited from a Kuba wagon or a
Yeah.
MMG motorcycle or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think it's gonna place how I would play is just shunt up the Tiger as quickly as possible to
Yeah.
benefit from that Tiger fear and say, okay, I'm gonna make you deal with this.
Yeah.
So that way the rest of my guys can slog behind it, maybe guard to
Yeah.
get that heavy cover.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so have the back line to defend against an enemy rush
Mm,
with my howitzer and my MMG,
mm,
and then everything else will basically funnel behind the Tiger to form a
yeah.
spearhead.
Yeah. For me, I would try to spread out my opponent as much as possible because we're playing 750, and if we're playing on full-size tables, the table is going to be a little bit empty. But I have 3 mobile units. I have 2 Bren carriers and the Lee, and then possibly even the Jeep with the flamethrower. So I would
Hmm.
try to spread him out as much as possible and see if I could push through some places, like sneak one unit into his deployment zone somewhere. Um, Game 2. What do I do, Sarge? Tag him and bag him. The lieutenant needs line of sight to something to confirm any kills you make and score point. Oh man! So you're going to have to put your lieutenant out there, aren't you?
Yeah, so I got this from Andrew, where in combat patrol he said, okay, your lieutenant needs to basically you take a tally of everything that lieutenant has line of sight to, and
Yeah.
then those are the units that you need to kill that turn in order to actually get your kill point. So it's not
Okay.
going solely off of order dice that you kill,
No.
but did your lieutenant see it? But then that also means if you are so unfortunate as to lose your lieutenant to an errant sniper,
Ooh,
then you cannot get any points. Unfortunately, I
ooh.
know that is a bit harsh, but
That is harsh.
uh,
But that
that will
that
benefit
really
people
means
who
the
take a
sniper
sniper if you
lieutenant
want to.
duel is going to be extremely important. You are going to have to set up your lieutenant to start with where the snipers can't get them, and then you're going to have to try and deal with the sniper if you want your lieutenant to actually do something.
Hmm.
Yeah, maybe you should even outflank or reserve the lieutenant.
That's an interesting thing to consider because
Yep.
I guess you're planning on late game points.
Yeah, that would
If you
be it.
can't get
Yeah,
anything early
once
in the
you've
game,
yeah,
if your lieutenant's not on the board.
once you've removed any like direct threats to the lieutenant, then he could come on and you can start taking points. Um, at least if you're up against someone with a sniper, I would actually consider reserving my lieutenant. because you could also put him in somewhere where the sniper can't get to him, where there's a huge building or forest that blocks line of sight or whatever. Yeah, take that hill. So there's an objective as well.
Yep, not necessarily an objective, but so every turn, you and your opponent can, if you're within 6 inches of the table, of the center of the table, you and your
Mm,
opponent can both get that point.
okay.
So it would encourage
You to
everybody to
push
kind of
up
get
and
stuck
into
in.
the get stuck in, yeah. And then game 3 would be Lost in the Woods, made by Jason, and that is search and rescue. So one infantry unit designated lost and begins on the table. Points for finding them and escorting them off the opponent's table edge. Okay, how do you find your infantry?
Yes, so this may actually, if you have the mission packet, so this might be better to have the visual of the deployment.
Yeah,
Um,
I need to find that though. So you talk and I will see if I can find it.
sure. Yeah, so Jason had some inspiration with this one. So at the most recent event that he ran called Higher Authority, where it required you to take a captain or a major, and in addition to your lieutenant, and all of those higher officers were essential to the mission. Um, so how this would work, so okay, you would pick one infantry unit that you have, one of your compulsory infantry units. So for me, it would be one of my here infantry squads. They start on the table near the center end where the
Mm,
woods would be, and they count as dug in for the purposes of being shot at. So that extra -2, they always count as down. Um, and you won't be able to activate them until your lieutenant gets within 12 inches of them. So
okay.
everybody starts off the board, except for a handful of units, and your lieutenant needs to find them, and then you can use your order dice to actually activate them. And so uh, you are staying dug in. You could go down, so it's going to be 7s to shoot them or something really hard to deal with. So yes, here we go. So yeah,
Yeah.
you would pick one of these
Mm,
sections in the center,
yeah.
uh,
And place
and
your
your
unit
opponent would
there.
take the
Yeah.
opposite one.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then you would have to rescue your lost squad. So you get 1 point for finding your lost squad, so getting your
Mm,
lieutenant within 12 inches of them, and then you get another point for getting into your opponent's deployment zone with that lost squad, and
yeah.
then another point for exiting the table.
Mm.
So there you go.
Again, a really nice spin on double envelopment, I guess, because you're doing something different and you have to have special units that do the things, which I guess would, I mean, it makes so much sense that your lieutenant has to go out and get that squad. They're out of communication. They've gone off the rails or whatever, and they're just sitting there waiting for new orders. I mean, makes perfect sense in my eyes. So yeah, a little bit of a fiddly deployment though, so this will take a little bit of time for people to set up. I would recommend that they study this thoroughly in advance, just because the deployment is going to be a little bit. Um, so they have 36 inches in the center. Okay, yeah, yeah, lovely. So
So yeah, and
how would our warbirds lists play in this mission? Do you think? What would you?
so So I would have my 7-man here squad be my lost squad because that's the biggest one,
Yeah,
and they just have rifles. I understand they're
yeah.
not really going to do much, and if anybody assaults them at all, they're kind of dead.
Mm,
So I'd be a little bit screwed here, where you have stubborn paratroopers. That's a
yeah,
lot better, or at
yeah,
least a lot more survivable.
yeah.
And also because you have your lost squad and you deploy 3 units,
Mm,
your opponent also deploys 3 units. So right next to your lost squad, your opponent could be like, "Oh, I'm gonna park my Lee right there,"
yeah,
and I'm like, "Ah, crap."
yeah,
But
yeah.
there is a bonus victory point for each enemy armored unit that you kill. Notice
Mm,
that it's 7+ armored value or in the tank slot.
yeah.
So,
So even the Hanomaks,
unfortunately,
even the brain
your
carriers,
Brens.
everything. Yeah, yeah. But that
uh,
I think for me that would be my tactic as well. I would put one of my paratroopers as the lost squad, and then I would deploy my lieutenant in um, Bren carrier and the Lee, and then I would push up that armored fist towards my lost squad as quickly as possible, getting to them, getting the lieutenant out, finding them, putting the lost squad into the brain carrier again, and then they could drive forward. That
That's
would
a
be
good
the
thinking.
Yeah, that would be the it'll take a few turns, but that would be the plan for me, I think. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I think park the tiger and see if I can get
Yeah.
into those woods,
Yeah.
because tiger fear would just bog down any of that.
Yeah.
And so
It would.
I think
Playing against the
I think
tiger
that's
can
what
be
I would
so annoying.
I think that's what I would try and do is,
Yeah.
yes, I'm gonna really struggle on the lost squad end of things, because
Yeah.
I don't have any veterans. I have all
Yeah.
regulars.
Yeah.
Um, so that's, I think, how I would handle it, is I would lean more
Right.
into the kill points end of it than the lost squad. Maybe find them in turn 4 or
Mm,
something like that, and
yeah.
then maybe try and get like a last turn push. But
Right. Before we end it today, because we're closing up on the end here, but I did tease a little bit that we may just do a list review here at the end. Should we do that? Do we have time? Yeah, we do.
yeah, it's only what, 10:40, so yeah, we got
It's
20
only
minutes.
right. So I will share my screen because I got an email from Christian who's going to Operation Grizzly. So we can do a live review with the TO and me both talking about your list. Let's do it. And Christian, if the list it doesn't fit the criteria and your list is dismissed, you'll know immediately because Jackson will tell you right now.
Yeah, I'll email him, because this is gonna come out after the list deadline.
It is,
So
yeah,
just
yeah,
quick caveat, so that way you
yeah, yeah.
can't see
But
the
we are
missions
we
before
are
anything.
recording
But yeah,
this last weekend before Christmas, so yeah. Right, 1,000 points, 13 order dice, seems reasonable. It is the Guam 3rd Marine Division, so I'm expecting to see a lot of skirmishes here. We have a lieutenant regular, so he is sticking to. Hopefully, let's see how much of his platoon is regular, but with an extra man, submachine guns. Would you take submachine guns on your Americans, or would you actually give them rifles for better skirmish range?
on my
Yeah,
lieutenant, I always take my submachine guns,
yeah, me
just
as
because
well.
I think the extra shots are too essential.
Yeah,
Uh, well, yeah, you could plink away with rifles and moving and things like
yeah,
that. I feel like the lieutenant with 2 rifle shots, yeah, you may put a pin on something, but with 4 SMG shots, you might
you
actually be able
might
to kill
kill.
something.
Yeah, you might kill a
So
guy. Yeah. There is a difference there between how people play this. So we have a veteran U.S. Marine squad, 5 rifles, 3 BARs. Ooh, that is a lot of shots coming out of that unit. 8 man, and then one more here, regular. 5 rifles, 3 BARs. Same actual output here. A lot cheaper though. Um, I think I would even consider making the first squad regular, but it is because they're veteran. It is a lot more pushy. You can take more risks with it.
mhm.
Um, I think perhaps if I had the points, I would put in a few pistols as well. Just
Yeah,
to
that's
make
kind
them
of
tough
where I
fighter.
am
Yeah,
with my U.S. Marines. I'd have like my regular squads have the
yeah,
BARs, they sit in the back, but my
yeah,
assault squad with like 4
yeah,
SMGs and 3 pistols, that's going to
yeah,
be veteran and that'll
yeah,
push up. So
yeah,
curious to see how he uses that.
yeah. Then he has another U.S. Marine squad again, regular again, 3B. This is some nasty skirmishing units. Wow, that's a lot of shots again. The U.S. Marine Assault Squad. This is just that. Yeah, that's also a nasty unit. Regular, 3 rifles, 1 automatic rifle, 1 flamethrower, 1 submachine gun. So a lot of shots again. It needs to transport in order to be able to bring that flamethrower up. But yeah, really good, really solid infantry corps he has here.
Yeah, very much.
And then medium inexperienced mortar, just the way I always run it.
So
Um,
this is a quick issue. So
yeah,
inexperienced mortars can't take spotters.
yep,
So
they
that's going to
can't.
be something that he needs to adjust.
But it just says options spotter, but he hasn't actually taken it.
Oh, okay, my bad. Okay, that's a
So I
misread.
think he's good. Maybe right. It's a
Because I see
four-man,
composition four soldiers.
four soldiers, 45 points. We're gonna have to go back and check because a 3-man medium mortar is 35 points in experience. So maybe the 10. I don't know. I'm not sure. Anyways, we can check. Um, even though you can't actually use the spotter, you can actually buy it, which
Thanks, Easy
is
Army. All right.
very, very cheesy, but you can buy it just to have something to plunk out in forward deployment in some missions. A bazooka team, always take one if you're playing Americans, right? Flamethrower team, regular, that needs transport as well. Medium artillery, yeah, so a medium howitzer, because you can't take the heavy one. And a Sherman, regular with the medium AT gun and machine gun and hull-mounted machine guns.
And there we go. Here are your transports that you
There
needed.
are my transports. This is what I was looking for. So a jeep and a 1.25 ton truck. 12-man capacity. Do you think he needs all that?
Because you could take a Dodge, but in some missions he may want to have spots for putting that veteran squad in the truck instead
Yeah,
of the flamethrower squad. So it
yeah,
might give him some options, or it's probably just with the models that he has. I know for me, I don't own any Dodges.
yeah,
That
yeah.
needs to change.
I like that he
But
I like that he puts on an MMG, because that does mean that his transport isn't just like sitting there. It can actually do something. It can be a backline machine gun sitting and shooting. And he does have quite a lot of transport for his small teams, like with 2 jeeps.
and they're all regulars, so with the
Yeah,
Americans
he can
rule, he could
outflank.
outflank with them.
Yeah, really well. And because you can actually take 3 man in the jeep. So his lieutenant, he takes a 2-man team. Otherwise, you could put the lieutenant in and even further increase your
Get the
chances of
bonus.
coming in
Yeah.
from the outflank, right?
Yeah, my guess is
Um,
there's one Jeep for the bazooka and one Jeep for the flamethrower, and then the truck is for the engineers.
yeah,
So,
that would be it. And if you're outflanking those engineers, I would give them the lieutenant in, just to make sure that the outflank comes in, because that would
mhm.
mean that you're rolling on a 10, I think.
Yep.
Um, so that would be really, really up the chances. This is a really good skirmish list for me. And in with your pack with no access to multi-rocket launchers, I think this is almost about as bad as you can make an American list. What do you
Well,
feel about it?
he's got room for one. So if you
Yeah.
wanted to make, I guess that inexperienced medium mortar, I think I would need to
Mm,
adjust that.
yeah.
But my thinking is if you take that veteran squad, knock it down to regular, like we were
Yeah.
talking about, that
Yeah.
saves you about what, 26 points or
It
something.
does. Yeah.
And this U.S. Marine Assault Squad,
Mm,
I'm curious because as far as I know, the USMC Assault Squad, at least the flamethrower one, has to take AT grenades. Um,
I don't know.
maybe,
We can
and
check, but
it also has to take a BAR.
mm,
Um, so I'm thinking that there are some options for some point savings here where maybe you can squeeze out an extra order dice to get you to that 14.
yeah.
Um, and
You
I
could
know
also do
he
that
was
by cutting down on the size of that transport. I mean, the
mhm.
large truck here could also be cut down, as we talked about, to a Dodge would be cheaper, and that would again give you some points for the extra order dice.
Or also my adjustment would be instead of spending those points on another order dice thing, I would upgrade this guy to be veteran, this Sherman,
To take
to
advantage
take
of
the gyro
the gyro
stabilizer.
stabilizer, yeah, yeah, that could also be a thing. For me, I wouldn't do that because you're already sinking points, a lot of points into that one. But I think 14th order dice would be, yeah, that would be nice, I think. Um, but it is still very, very strong. I mean, he has one, two, three, four infantry choices. He could get a fifth. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, because in the Guam theater selector, as far as I know, you can take the U.S. Marine replacement squad, which is an
Yep,
experienced squad. Now they
yep.
don't have green; they're kind of bad. But if you needed
They're
like a
cheap.
backline holder or
Yeah,
something
they're a
that's
cheap
cheap,
backline. Yeah,
that might be an option to get you to the 14.
it would. Yeah. Right. So, I mean, Christian, it's a really good list. I think there are like certain points you could improve, but I think you would be very happy with playing this list. I don't see any weaknesses in it as such. Um, and there are a few things that I think Jackson needs to check up on that if
Mhm.
you've done them correctly or not. But that's it.
But I agree. Yeah, very, very mobile, very
Yeah,
skirmish heavy. Every unit in his army can do something. Everything
yeah,
has a purpose.
yeah.
And I think that, like you were talking about saving points, the
Hmm.
Sherman can still do things at
Okay.
195 points. You
Yeah,
don't necessarily have to take it as veteran to take advantage of the gyro stabilizer, but it's still going to be a big target.
it is. It is. Everything. I mean, your Tiger tank is definitely going to be aiming for that. I mean, everything that has an AT of some sort, a penetration value, is going to be aiming for that one tank. But that, of course, does mean that the rest of his infantry is free to do what they want
Yeah,
while that
that means
happens.
I'm not shooting at the infantry.
Yeah,
So
true, true. So that's a benefit as well. Right. So, Jackson, what's the next thing for you? What are we looking into? Um, Now the lists are coming in. The deadline is when?
yeah, so this video is going to come out after the deadline. So the
It
deadline is
is. Yeah,
December 23rd. So if this
yeah,
video could come out Christmas Eve or something,
yeah,
I know you're going to be on
yeah.
holiday coming up soon.
This is
Um,
releasing on the 25th.
oh, perfect. Okay.
So
So yeah, so by that time we'll have all of the lists will be in. We'll have everything lined up. I know I've actually been going on a really big terrain push. My friend Rusty 3D printed me a old school power plant. So I'm making a big power plant table, which will be really fun
mm,
to go along with my market garden table. Yeah. So as far as me, definitely reviewing a bunch of lists, trying to make sure last minute things for the venue, making sure we have plenty of food available for
yeah,
everyone. Everybody is getting their hotels all lined up. Um, but yeah, it's going to come down to painting. So far, we have a good amount of players, and I
mm,
expect us to not fully sell out, but we're definitely going to be in a very good spot. Um, and yeah, I can't wait to see what everybody comes in. So yeah, our next video should be predictions list, maybe a list
exactly.
reviews.
Which will, as soon as the lists are all approved, we will do a video where we talk about predictions for what will happen and like a meta where we sum up what people are bringing. I think so.
Sounds good.
Right. That was it from us today then. I hope everyone enjoyed that. And to everyone going to Grizzly and Warbirds, good luck. And we will see you there. Right.